Hey, Adam,
Geez,
one
why,
thing.
why do you think they called bumpers, Gary?
I don't know.
Because they come at the beginning, at the end, like bumpers.
Alex, you're a marketing guy. Do you like that design behind Paul? Does that SWIT logo thing look pretty cool to you?
Hey, I forgot to hit the record button.
Yeah, that's really professional, isn't it?
Well, this is a professional podcast.
I met her in a parking lot and was handed 2 little Yorkies. And the only person I knew that knew Yorkies was Paul. So I called Paul and said, Paul.
Sweet Talk is a weekly 20-minute podcast brought to you by the Continuing Education and Workforce Training Division of Idaho State University's College of Technology. Find us on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and SoundCloud and subscribe today. Now it's time to get started with Sweet Talk.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Sweet Talk, our weekly podcast here at Idaho State University's Continuing Education and Workforce Training. I am Paul Dickey, one of your hosts. I am the Video Instruction Manager and Apprenticeship Coordinator here at SWEET. And as always, joining me is Raylyn Price, our Interim Director. Raylyn, how are you doing today?
I am doing excellent, Paul. We're enjoying some Hallmark snow out my window, so I'm quite enjoying that.
No, we talked about this before we started recording. I'm a New England boy. I never want to see snow again. So I'm not happy with Hallmark snow or any snow.
Well, Hallmark snow is just that really softly falling snow,
Snow
it's
globe
not
snow?
coming in hard and heavy. It's just really pretty. So I'm enjoying it out my window today. But
Okay, all right.
and also moving to another topic, we have Angie with us. Angie is our marketing coordinator. Good morning, Angie.
Good morning,
Friday.
Raylyn. I would like to remind you that in my personal, very, very non-professional opinion, the Hallmark snow is the slickest.
Oh,
So
okay.
be
That could
very
be too.
careful. It is the slickest.
Very careful out there. The snow globe snow. It's not snow
Yes.
globe snow.
Snow globe snow. That's better.
So we have a really great topic today. We're going to be talking about the upcoming emergency medicine conference that we have coming up in February, where our local first responders and or health professionals can get contact hours that may be needed for their profession. And joining us today is our Master of Ceremony for that event, Bowen Curtis. Bowen is a firefighter and EMT at the Pocatello Fire Department. Welcome, Bowen. Can you take a few minutes to tell us about yourself?
Sure thing. Yeah. Thanks for having me on, guys. My name is Bowen Curtis. Been with Pocatello Fire Department for about 2 years now. I personally am loving the snow as I love to ski, like most other firefighters do. When it comes to firefighter hobbies, I'm basically the stereotypical love to ski, love to golf kind of guy. We all fall in the same vein, but yeah, been in the fire department for about 2 years. I've had my EMT license for about 4 or 5 years now.
Where did you get your EMT, Bowen?
Where did I get it?
Yeah.
The College of Technology right here.
Oh,
Perfect.
wow. Raylyn, what a plug.
What a plug.
Yeah. And I've also been working with North Bannock Fire Department as a captain and doing some work for them out in the county. So been in the fire and in EMS for multiple years now.
So, Bowen, I noticed you're working on that firefighter mustache.
Giving it my Paul. Okay, I'm giving it a good college try. It's coming in a little bit more blonde than I would like. Okay, see right through it. I'm trying.
I see that. Years ago, I was recording classes, and I had the instructor Cody. I forget what Cody Anderson, I think, from Idaho Falls, and he was sporting quite the firefighter mustache.
Well, some guys have it. Some guys have to develop it over time. Effort mustache grown and kept like no problem.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, Bowen, how long? You said you've been a firefighter for 2 years, but an EMT for 4 years. So, number one, how did you become an EMT? And then two, how did that transition to the firefighter role?
Yeah, I went through the college of technology, got my EMT through their course, which was totally awesome. And then you have to affiliate with a certain jurisdiction or department. And so I quickly started volunteering at Fort Hall Fire Department and North Bannock Fire Department, all while trying to, test at these other fire departments and get hired on full time. And then it took me until basically 2022 in May to get hired on at Pocatello. And that's kind of seeing as Pocatello runs the Bannock County Ambulance District and we run all the medical in the whole county. It was pretty easy to translate over and affiliate on the Bannock County Ambulance District and get all the ambulance time I want.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Awesome. So would you say it's pretty competitive to try to become a firefighter?
Yeah.
Locally?
Yep. It's I know when I tested the first time for the fire department, the civil service test, there was right around 200 guys that were testing
Wow.
and the ISU and went in one of the big old study halls and tested there. And then COVID started hitting, so it went to the online thing. So I don't know exactly how many people were testing, but it took me a couple tries, and I think that's kind of a resounding, experience for most guys. It takes a couple tries, couple years to get going, but once you do, it's just worth the world.
That's great.
So,
So is it
Bowen,
fair to say that you love it?
Oh man, it's the
What you're
best job.
doing?
Yeah, I love
Okay.
so Bowen, how long have you wanted to be an EMT / firefighter?
It was basically right after I graduated high school that, I have some family members that have been in the fire service for a long time. You know, grandparents that were in the fire service and things like that. And so I would talk to them and kind of get their stories and figure it out. And it sounded like it was just right up my alley. And so I started basically right around 2018, 2019. And that's when I jumped in the EMT class, as that was the advice I got, get your EMT. That's what departments love to see. And so it's been, 5, 6, 7 years now that I've been in it and loving it.
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah.
Now you're obviously also doing Master of Ceremonies at the upcoming EMC conference. How did that come about?
This is probably going to be to my detriment, but we're here. So I've known Ray Lynn for quite a few years. Went to school with some of her kids, and I have kind of always been a guy that has been on stage quite a bit. I was a choir kid. I won't get too far into that. I'll get live at the fire department. But I've been on stage a lot, and Raylan knew that about me, and she, I guess I came to her mind when they were looking for somebody to kind of head this thing, and I was happy to do it. So I'm fairly comfortable up in front of people, and been in the EMS world for a handful of years now, and so I've been happy to jump in with both feet and get this thing going.
Oh, okay, great. So you said you've been a theater background, what in high school, or do you also do community theater?
I have in the past. So I've done a handful of shows in town at what was Mystique Theaters, now the Palace Playhouse. Was in a couple of productions there, and then I did choir and show choir things in high school for all 4 years, and I just enjoyed it a lot.
Bowen, when you think firefighter, you don't think theater performer.
I'm gonna jump into Bowen's defense. My father was a firefighter, and my father was in the high school choir and the high school band. he played the trombone, and he was in the
Oh.
Gate City Singers.
Well, I understand there's a lot of talent at Pocatello Fire Department.
Oh
And,
boy.
I'm on for putting together this band, Pocatello Firefighter. What did the Flamin' band, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I think it would be fun. But no, Bowen, when he says, show choir, they have a lot of fun. They are not afraid to get up and make fools out of themselves, right?
Oh,
And just
and
have fun while you're doing it, laugh and talk. So anyway, he'll be a great MC. We're looking forward to that. Hopefully he's got, some good firefighter EMS jokes going.
oh, I've
Got
Are
some
there
stuff up his
firefighter
sleeve.
EMS jokes?
Oh, yep, the classic jokes that everybody tells, I'm sure I'll play off of.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you that's a little less fun than a little bit more on the serious note of the Emergency Medical Conference. This year, we do have a wilderness physical therapy track, as well as our main theme, which is all about the heart. The conference does give an opportunity for contact hours. Bowen, can you talk a little bit about contact hours and why that's important to people in your profession?
Yeah. So I think it's a pretty easy thing to realize and accept that you can go through as many class hours and lectures and even trainings that are available to you, and you can do all these things and be so prepared and get out into the field and be completely lost and have no idea what you're doing. So riding along on the ambulance and getting those patient contacts and actually putting into the real world what you're learning in class and what you're learning in your lectures makes a world of difference. I had my EMT license basically since 2019 and didn't get hired on at Pocatello Fire Department until 2022. And the experience that I got in the first, I'll say the first 2 days at work on the ambulance trumped the previous 3 years of having my EMT license and not running on an ambulance.
Sure.
And especially when it comes to these topics, they can be pretty complicated topics. And I'm sure in the conference in February, we're going to learn all about all this stuff because we've got some all-star MDs and guys that know so much about it. But it makes the world of difference to do it in the real world and to do it in a classroom.
Sure. And then how about are you quite required a certain number of continuing education or what they'll call contact hours to keep your license renewed?
Yeah, yep. So we kind of just go off of the National Registry for EMTs. And so there's the continuing education hours that you need to log when your license is about to lapse over, and so you can renew it with all those continuing education hours and log it in, and those things are the only way that you can keep your EMT. So it's really important.
Good. Well, that's why we do the conference, honestly, is to help people, whether they're with Pocatello Fire or Chapek or Blackfoot or, anywhere in this area, or whether there are smaller volunteer units, to help people get those hours so that they can maintain their credentials and to learn, because there's always new information coming out, and important to know what happens from the first on the scene incident to all the way up through hospital and recovery, and that whole process, I think, is important for people to see. Yeah.
So, Bowen, you had completed your education in 2019, but didn't get hired until 2022. Were you discouraged at any point to the process of trying to get hired somewhere?
Yeah, I think it's kind of inevitable, seeing as how you get done with your EMT class and you're so gung ho to get going. but that's just not the reality of the fire service specifically. It's a competitive scene because you're basically waiting for guys to either retire off of the fire department or quit or get fired, whatever it is. Maybe hiring, 2 to 4 or 5 people a year. And like I said, that first test that I took, the civil service test, there was upwards of 200 guys testing. And so you take the test, you get put on a list. And if you have your EMT license, you get some extra points on that test, which is awesome. And that helped me out a lot. But I tested 3 times. And that first time, I thought I did pretty good. And, I ended up basically number like 33 on the list. And that's, it's not going to, you're not going through 33 guys on a list. And that was back when the test was 2 years. They would have that test for 2 years. And so I was like, maybe towards the end. And then tested the second time and I did really well. And I got like 7th on the list or something like that. And I was like, hey, there's a possibility. And I missed the opportunity that time too. And then they changed it to 1 year. And so I tested one more time and I felt really prepared and I did really, really well on the test and got hired on in 2022. So it worked out.
Excellent. So what would be your best advice for someone who's interested in a career in emergency medicine?
Well, seeing as around here, it's mostly the fire departments that run EMS. You kind of have to have that drive to be a firefighter too. But always being, getting your EMT license, obviously, and being up to date on those skills. Because the firefighters, at least at Pocatello Fire Department, are EMTs first. We run much more medical calls than we do fire calls. And so, having both of those drives and desires, and then just testing everywhere, test at Blackfoot, test at Idaho Falls, test at Fort Hall, test at, whatever it is, test at Pocatello. The more tests that you take, the more dialed in you kind of get to these. And I think everybody will tell you the same thing. Test everywhere you go. Everywhere that could be a possibility.
Yeah, that's really good advice. Can you think of some, maybe your top 2 most memorable calls that you can talk about? I mean, we have to kind of be careful about HIPAA and that type of thing. So not, but what has been the most memorable for you?
I think well, I would hate to get too, graphic or anything, but the most memorable calls are kind of the ones that are the most serious, that affect you. And every firefighter is going to have stories about the calls that affect them or the most memorable calls of the year. And just how crazy things can get. One recently was kind of an interesting call, seeing as it came in as a respiratory call, respiratory problem. And it was a first party call. So the person who was having the respiratory problem called in themselves and said, hey, I'm having a really hard time breathing. Can you send somebody now? And it was interesting. And they sent it out as kind of a high priority call. So they sent an ambulance and a fire truck, and the battalion chief. We all went, and we went just about as quick as we could. And we were only about 4 or 5 minutes away from where the call was. And by the time we get there, this lady had already passed away. And so we did CPR on this lady, and she unfortunately didn't make it. But it was memorable in the fact that she herself called in. And we learned this by actually requesting the phone call from dispatch, and we listened to it and time-stamped everything, kind of when we went en route, how long it took us, when we arrived. And this lady stopped responding to the dispatcher 60 seconds before we got to her.
Wow.
Oh,
And it turned out to not be a respiratory problem. It was a cardiac event.
Mhm.
And she couldn't breathe, and it was presenting in that way. And so, although we performed CPR for 25 minutes or 30 minutes, she unfortunately didn't make it. And
Yeah.
so, is kind of one that affects you in a weird way because you think you're so close and it's right there and you have all the tools at your disposal. And sometimes things just don't work out in that way. Um, we did all we could, but that one is kind of one that was memorable to me, and it was a really great learning experience, seeing as sometimes things will work out and sometimes they don't. You just do all that you can.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So
Yeah.
Bowen, along those lines, what is one of the most rewarding parts of your job?
Well, it's going to be the stereotypical I love to help people answer, the interview answer. I love to help people. But when you're in the EMS world, you get to see parts of your own community that you did not know existed. People that are living in these situations that are just unbelievably horrible and just these bad places. And these people that their health is so horrible and so bad that they need so much help. And so you get on these calls and these people, they need the world of help and you are the resource for them. And so when you can provide quality medical care to a person and actually help them, a person that's in an actual medical emergency, and actually help them, it is the most rewarding thing about the job. And so it's, a lot of people call the ambulance, maybe not needing the ambulance, maybe needing other help. Um, and so maybe that means like mental health help, or maybe they need to go to the crisis center instead of the hospital, things like that. And you as an EMT or as a paramedic can help these people, and that's your job. And when you get to help somebody in that way, it's what keeps the gears turning. Yeah.
So sometimes you act as just a gateway to get them other resources.
Yeah, it doesn't happen very often, but we do. We kind of help with medical transports if somebody needs to go maybe from the hospital to an assisted living home, or if there's maybe it's not a medical emergency but a behavioral health emergency, we can get them to a crisis center, and there's a different process for that. And so there's a handful of resources that we can help people get, working alongside with law enforcement as well, where we can help people in different ways, not only in just medicine.
Sure.
So Bowen, is this job what you expected it to be? I mean, you kind of had some family members that were in the field, but you weren't in the field yourself, and then you took the education, then you tested it, and now is it what you expected it was, or were you surprised by what it actually is?
I think I got a pretty realistic view of it before going in. Um, a lot of times there's, like I had mentioned, there's people that call the ambulance that don't need the ambulance. And, many other times there's people that call the ambulance that, wow, they needed an ambulance 2 days ago and they're just now calling you. And so there's just a wide range of possibilities in this job. I got a pretty realistic view of it, seeing as I have some pretty close family members working in EMS. And so, it's somebody that doesn't have that background could easily be blown away at what EMS is, or what the job actually means and what you're doing. You know what I mean?
You are the first responders. I mean, so you get these calls and you might have a little bit of an idea of what's going on, but until you actually are there and can assess the situation, you have really no idea what you're walking into, which can be, I'm sure, a little stressful, a
Yeah.
little heart pounding, right?
Sure. And you, like I was saying earlier, you get to see parts of the community that you didn't know existed. And so some of the residences you go into are just in shambles, and there's bugs and there's nasty and there's gross stuff. And there's the constant fear of, am I safe in this environment and what's going on? And so it's there's curveballs that get thrown at you every single day when you're working.
I'll bet.
Yeah.
How about animals? Have you had troubles with animals or not so much?
I haven't had any large incidences like getting bit by a dog or something like that. But a lot of the houses that you go in, especially the cat houses, I'm sure the EMS folks can can understand, they get pretty nasty with pet hair and feces and
Yeah.
and so, yeah.
Well, we are actually a little over our time limit,
No.
but listening to your stories, I just couldn't cut anyone off. But we're getting down to our time limit, so we likely need to kind of wrap this up. If someone is interested in coming to our emergency medical conference, you can find information at cetrain.isu.edu/EMC. I will let Paul take it away from here.
Okay. Yes. Bowen, thank you so much for being on the show today. Really appreciate it. I like stories. I like stories. Raylan, thank you so much as always. And Angie, I can't do this without you. Now, if anyone wants to check out our offerings for the other items we have in our catalog, you can check out our webpage at cetrain.isu.edu, or you can email us at cetrain@isu.edu. You can also give us a call at 208-282-3372. And the part of this reason we have this podcast is to inform and our community of offerings that we have and people that are in our community, such as Bowen, that help every day. So if you like to help us spread this word, please like, share, and subscribe to this podcast. We do appreciate that. And be safe out there.